29th of October or 30th, Monday, and I'm going to go look at the old, it was a rock crusher, and it's really, it's been a mystery to me for 10 years. There's this structure out here next to the abandoned railroad, and I never knew what it was. I asked a lot of people, I asked some old folks that grew up around here. No one really knew what it was. No one had a good explanation. So finally, a couple of years, well, last year actually, last winter, I started looking up old newspaper clippings and found out a lot of the history just by reading from Ft.Scott Tribune and Parsons newspaper. Used to be the Katy Railroad line. It ran from Parsons to Ft.Scott, and along the line they built a rock crusher, like a small one, like in 1905. Couple of clips in the paper about that. I left all the material at home because it's kind of raining right now. But I'm gonna go out and take a look at it. They stopped crushing rock after a few years, and then they started back up. They bought more land. The Katy Railroad did. They bought more land, and they went at it full steam. It only lasted for like 3 years because they couldn't get enough help. They couldn't get enough people from around here to work the rock crusher. So they abandoned it. And I'm not exactly sure when they abandoned it or when they closed. The first video I made was called the Big Oil Jubilee. That all went on about 1,000 yards away from here, in this pasture, this field over here. I haven't found that well, or where it used to be, but this whole area is kind of like where it all was. The railroad runs this way, along that tree line. I'm going to get over there and walk down it, and I'm going to show you an old corral where there was they'd load cows on the railroad train. Now it looks like it's sleeping, but it's cool. The camera's waterproof, but I'm going to get over there and take a look at it. It's really cool, and hopefully when I get home, put a fire in the wood stove, and it's like 39 degrees, and this is sleep. But I'll explain a little bit better whenever I get home. This is the old railroad line. You can probably see it behind me a little bit, and it goes that's north, and there is the remains of the loading ramp where there used to be a little stockyard, I guess. There's headed south on the old abandoned line. I'm going to go down there and give you a better look at it. Looks kind of cool. Old loading ramp. Somehow they got them from here to the railroad line right there, but who knows how long this has been sitting out here. It's kind of cool. I was just thinking about the whole livestock corral there, and I mentioned something about how they got them from there to the tracks. Well, now that I thought about it more, this is like the main line that the train ran. So there was a spur that went along the edge of the, parallel to the tracks. a spur where they would back in the cars, load them up, and then move them out onto the main line. And what helped me to realize that was there's this, don't know if I can pick it up, but in there's like those stones. Looks like a little road back there. That was probably the spur that ran along the line for loading up the livestock. And also there's a spur over here by the rock crusher. There's supposed to have been, I read, 3 spurs, but there's one that's got a good bridge there that's still standing, and it's kind of cool to see. I'm going to head over there now. Right down here to my left, well, first off, down here to the right, that's some kind of a culvert that runs underneath the whole railroad bed. And there's this brick structure down here. I'm gonna walk down there, but this is where the rock crushers were, and it's not too far from where that livestock corral was. This right here, kind of see it in there. That is that old bridge for the spur. This spur for the rock crusher, I suppose. Looks like a good place to go in at, but kind of cool. There's a lot more to it than this, but the concrete's still here. There's that brick deal. Alright, I'm down here at the brick deal, and just going to show you some stuff around here. This is like a stone, laid stone embankment or something to support that. Up there on top is the railroad bed. Over there's that bridge trestle thing, and here is this brick structure out here. And for years I went out here and wondered what it was. I mean, look how thick that is. There's like, that's over a foot thick wall. And after years of pondering what it could be, before I knew it was a rock crusher, I didn't know what it was or what this was. When I found out that it was a rock crusher, I got to thinking there's a chunk of the wall right there, the big old 1 liter Mountain Dew. But once I figured out that it was a rock crusher, found out that it was, I got to thinking, like, what did they use for power? How did they generate electricity or whatever to turn those things? So I figured this must be like a big generator room, like a big gas powered generator. I'm not sure. This would have been 1918. Yep, 1918. In my second video that I did on the big old Jubilee thing, I went and found that abandoned old building. It said 1918 above the doorway in stone, and that is over that way. That's not too far from here, but there's like a bluff, a cliff. You couldn't like walk straight to it from here. You'd have to go around. But I wondered if that had to have been something to do with this camp, that they're housing people to work this place. And it all, I mean, it ties in with the 1918, and in the newspaper it said that they built this place in 1918. But I'm not sure what kind of technology they had, you know, to turn rock crushers back in those days. The only thing I can think of is like steam or old-fashioned generators that did electricity, maybe, I don't know. But I'm going to look around some more and show a little bit more of this little area. Here I am on the north side of that big thick wall that I showed earlier, and there's some structures, some foundations in the ground that I don't understand what it is. This most likely is like where the rock crushers were mounted. So I'm thinking when they were crushing this limestone, it had to be super dusty. So the only way to get rid of the dust or keep it down was with water. So here's these pits and these channels in the ground, and I'm thinking that maybe it had something to do with running the water off or something like that. Here's what they look like. This is like, there's the wall, whoops, and got this little like trough channel, and it goes that way, and it goes to this bigger area. Gotta watch where I'm walking. There's a couple of pipes in the ground. Goes to this bigger looking trough. And then there's this big pit. I'll walk a little closer to that. There's kind of a neat wall. Not much of a wall, but something they built right there. Stacked stone. It's kind of adjacent to this area here. There's that pit, and I'll bet that thing's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's almost like steps right here. And it's full of water, and you can see those troughs going that way, headed east. There's a bigger one. Somehow I believe the rock crushers must have sat here, and they used water to cool it or something. Here's a big stone sitting out here. Don't know. It'd be cool to see an old picture, but I've looked and I didn't look super hard, but I couldn't find anything hardly about this place. From what I could tell, they built it. I think it said, I'll read the article when I get home, but it said they spent $200,000 back in 1918 and built this place, and they had big hopes to crush a lot of rock. There's one cool looking tree right there. Crush a lot of rock and make a big bunch of stuff. It's kind of weird piece of metal just embedded in the tree like a limb. Wow, that's cool. Over here is part of what they were quarrying. I'll take a walk over there. think one of the reasons the railroad was interested in this property was because of this. This is something you don't always see in Kansas. This is like a wall of rock. And it goes all the way there, all the way down there. And if you look at a satellite map, it's kind of in the shape, this here is a curve, and it looks like a big horseshoe. And you can see in the rock places where there were chisel marks or hammer drill bits or something. And this has got to be some sort of a creek or runoff. This low spot, and then it goes down there to like a swampy area. But I want to show you these rocks up here that are so cool. I climbed up to the top of these, like a bluff of these rocks, and it's really crazy looking. It looks really neat in the winter when all the leaves and stuff are gone. You can see it a lot better, but these rocks, I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but it looks like a lava flow or something. The way they're all out of the ground, and I've wondered why it looks like this. I don't really feel like walking over there, but there's a lot more of it, and it's like it was eroded, you know, to get the dirt out of the rocks. So I just wondered if part of their operation was to come up here like hydraulic mining with high-powered, high-pressure hoses. I'm not sure that time of the year or century, but to wash the dirt out off these rocks so that they could quarry them easier. I don't know, but it's just so weird that it's eroded so much that these rocks are just like sitting where they were laid when the earth began and all, and the water or dirt's just washed around them, and it's not like this anywhere else in this place. There's a cliff. It's starting to rain a little bit, so I don't think I'll walk down to that cliff bluff. There's no real cliffs in Kansas, but it's kind of interesting. And over there at that place, you can see marks where they drill down, dynamite it or something to help break up this rock and get it off to the crusher. Oh yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention about the whole rock crusher thing is that they were using this rock for what they called ballast, making railroad beds. Early 20th century, the railroad was spreading everywhere. Railroad towns were popping up. They were running lines to major cities that never had access before, and so they needed a good, strong ballast for the railroad beds, and this was one of the places that they wanted to work, and it, I guess it fell through, didn't work out. This place is kind of, it's weird. It's kind of cool that it's still here. It's kind of a mystery. No one really knows about it unless they really dig into the papers. It's not like a historical marked area, but it's kind of cool, and it's worth remembering. A lot of people worked here, and it failed, but now it's out here in the woods just doing nothing, and kind of cool to remember it. and check it out. Alright, I think I'm going to put my hood up and head back to the truck. Alright, I walked way down to where this Katy line on the north end crosses Pawnee Creek, and they took out this old bridge, and here's the old bridge. Over there's where the other side. There's a duck. That's cool. But there's the other side. Here's the span. I'd say it's probably about 35 feet to the water, and the creek goes up that way. Kind of weird. That metal can, I hadn't been over here in a year or so. That metal can wasn't here the last time I was here. Some relic someone found. Someone's been cutting limbs or breaking limbs off for some reason. Oh, it looked like they had a little fire right here. And these here poles, a couple of years back, well, for years I've been going out here, and kids used to come out here and ride their four-wheelers and stuff, and I always had this terrible feeling that someday somebody's going to ride their four-wheeler right off. Some kid from out of town or something didn't know about this place going to be flying and just go right off the end of that into the creek and die. So I brought 3 fence posts out here a few years ago, pounded them in right there. There's 1, 2 there. We used to be one over here, and someone probably pulled it up and threw it off the bridge. But this is the end of the Katy line. It goes that way to Ft.Scott. And I didn't think I was going to walk all the way down here. It's like not quite a half mile, a little over a quarter mile from the rock crusher. But I just wanted, I saw some cut limbs and stuff, and I wondered if anyone had moved these posts or done anything down here. That I think the state should put up a barrier, a wall or something to keep people from accidentally going off that. And excuse me, I always wanted to put one on the other side, but I don't think as many people come from the north and come down this way. But anyway, just wanted to put that in the film since I'm not here anyways. And now I'm going to head back to the truck. Alright, well, I'm back home from the rock crusher. Hope my hair ain't messed up. But got a couple of these newspaper articles. I copied off of newspaper.com just for when I was doing a little research on that whole thing up there, and wanted to read what I got here. 1913, the Parsons deal, Parsons Daily Eclipse, January 21st, 1913, page 5. It's talking about a permanent rock crusher. It says, Mr. Sherwin, well, I won't read the whole thing. Let me kind of summarize it. It's talking about the Katy Railroad bought 5 acres of land at the company's old stone quarry, 9 miles southwest of Ft.Scott. They bought, they're adding that to a 27-acre tract that they already owned to install a permanent rock crusher there for manufacturing of limestone gravel with which to ballast the mainline tracks. Some years ago, the Katy had a crusher at this point and made much gravel. The recent acquisition of land There's evidence of the extensive operations it plans for the future. It has 32 and a fraction acres of limestone. The work of putting in a permanent spur will begin immediately. This crusher will be operated continuously and will furnish work to quite a number of men and some teams. I think that means like horses. By experience, the railroad have discovered that the Joplin gravel that has been so generally used for ballast is a failure because it washes so easily. It does not pack or knit like crushed limestone. This has been shown several times in the Marie de Seine floods over the Ft.Scott tracks between Pleasanton and Lacine. The roadbed of Joplin gravel washes out like sand, so the Katy has adopted limestone as its ballast rock and will crush it on a very large scale for all its tracks, probably between St. Louis and Parsons in Kansas City. It has been negotiating to the McRoward land for some months. The Runkle land was bought 2 or 3 months ago. That was 1913. That was 5 years before the big one went in effect. This was 1917, August 13th, 1917. The Parsons Daily Eclipse again. It says, Katy to build town. The Katy Railroad has already begun work on a small town which will be built between Ronald and Hyattville. And Ronald I could not find on the map. I think it might be a little town that's called Walkertown. Hyattville it's about 5 miles, well, 4 miles southwest of where I was at the rock crusher today. It goes on to say the Katy will place there several monster rock crushers with a capacity of 35 loads of rock a day, and contract calls for capacity. Sleeping houses, eating houses, and a large commissary will be built, as well as an office building and other buildings. 3 spurs will be built into the crushers, one of which will be 2,000 yards long. Everything has to be done in readiness for work by the 1st of February, and the work on the spurs has already started. The Katy will crush 2 rock trains a day. Once the crusher is started, a great many men will be used in the work, which will be continued for several months. 1917, 1918. Another Parsons, May 1st, 1918. A large number of Mexican laborers were brought up from El Paso this morning and sent to Hollister to work at the Katy Rock Crusher. And from going through a lot of this stuff, I've learned that they had a labor deficiency. They couldn't attract enough people, locals. I mean, it's a rural agricultural area, and actually most people had jobs on the farm, and they couldn't supply enough people to man this big operation. And the Katy Railroad was based out of Texas, so they were bringing in workers from down south to try to fill all the positions to get this thing going. Well, that's 1918, and then no one knows. It doesn't really say when it closed down, but I've read that it did close down because of lack of labor. What I have here, the last one is a 1921 article from Parsons Daily Eclipse, January 24th, 1921, page 1. And this is talking about a special train that was coming up there for the oil jubilee. That I made my first 2 videos on that. What it says, new oil field attracts many to Hollister. Boom may open. Rock crusher there. A special train was run by the Katy Sunday from Ft.Scott to Hollister. The train consisted of 3 coaches, and 1 extra coach from Springfield, Missouri, was added to the special. J.I. Shepard, that's Jacob Ingram Shepard, I talked about in the other videos, a prominent attorney at Ft.Scott, is promoting a new oil field at Hollister, and the members of the special party made the trip with the intention of purchasing ground leases from Shepard, who holds an option on the valuable ground in the vicinity of Hollister. 3 years ago, the Katy built a rock crusher at Hollister at a cost of $200,000, but owing to the scarcity of labor, were compelled to close it down. If the boom continues, there's a possibility that the crusher, idle so long, may be reopened. What's kind of funny about this article is it's referring to Hollister, Missouri, which is a town. It was a town back then, and it's a town still. And it's calling it Hollister, Missouri. But what they're actually talking about is Hollister, Kansas, which probably wasn't even on a map back then much. But this Shepard, J.I. Shepard, president of the college, the People's College, you can see on old abstract maps and stuff that actually was land there in the corner of, or the southern end of Bourbon County, right where I was today. But it's an interesting story. I'm glad that I solved the mystery, because for years I'd gone out there and I always wondered, what is that, or what was that place? So that's kind of a neat thing. Pretty cool local history. That's going to be the end of my video. I hope you liked it. It's probably the last time I'll go out there for a while. There's nothing, just getting on winter, and I don't see myself going out there for a while. But anyway, I'm glad I got out there. Now I'm home, and it's starting to get some freezing rain a little bit out there, kind of drizzle, and got a fire going. And hope you all have a great day, and thank you for watching.